Wednesday, under 3 weeks till the election. In the immortal words of Omar on the hit HBO show, The Wire, one of the greatest lines ever of all time on television, and it applies here and now, folks. Omar making the profound statement, if you come at the king, you best not miss. Remember that line. President Donald Trump sat down with Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite at the Economic Club of Chicago, the event, and made cream of chicken soup out of him. And oh boy, if this is any indication of what's to come in less than 3 weeks, Democrats should be very, very afraid.
How about this? Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California.
Newsom.
He signed Newsom, I call him.
Yeah. But do you think...
No, he corrected me. He corrected me. I said, that's the first time I've been corrected.
There are CEOs out here, if they said those sort of things about a rival CEO, they'd be sacked. Do you think it's fine for a president?
But they don't have to survive like me. They don't have to go through what I have to go through.
Okay. All right, Mr. Brett. Relax here. It's Trump. Who is this idiot? They don't have to go through what I go through. This is what happens when you try. And again, using whatever means, whatever dirty trickery necessary to take someone down, Trump. At the end of it, when you don't manage to do that, when you hit and hit again, and you don't kill the intended target, what happens? The target gets stronger. Again, that unknown Bloomberg reporter came at the king, Trump, and missed, and then paid for it dearly. These people want niceties from President Trump. The time for niceties has come and long gone. Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Liz Cheney, Rachel Maddow, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Joy Reid, CNN, the New York Times, ABC, all complicit. Bogus investigations and impeachments, illegal lawfare in multiple jurisdictions, the constant Hitler references, we'll get to one, the worst kind of slander being compared to one of the most evil, ominous figures of all time, absolutely, completely unjustifiable, by the way, and not one but two assassination attempts that we know about. Donald Trump is in the sights of a terrorist regime. Iran wants death to Israel and death to America and death to Donald Trump. And yet, he's up there fighting for America. And we're all up there with him. The left's power-hungry, insane clown posse messed with the wrong guy. But not just that, they sorely misunderstood the MAGA movement. They insulted and threatened more than half of this country. I, of course, speaking to you as honored members of the deplorables. And in the process, the party that tricked people into believing that they were the party of tolerance is actually the party that fought to keep slavery in this country, a party obsessed with power and control. Well, we now know and we see how that party, the Democrat Party, really doesn't give a rat's ass about how or what they will do to keep control and that power. Congratulations, clown show on the left. You've only emboldened President Donald Trump even more.
Critics say your tariffs will end up being like a national sales tax. Because if you have America at the moment has $3 trillion worth of imports, you're going to add tariffs to every single one of them. That is going to push up the cost for all those people who want to buy foreign goods.
Now, what's going to happen?
That is just simple mathematics, President Trump.
It's not. Yeah, it is, but not the way you figure it. I was always very good at mathematics. Yes. Let me tell you, you're saying $3 trillion.
That's $3 trillion worth of imports.
And they don't have to pay. And the higher the tariff, the more likely it is to have them come into the country.
The higher the tariff, the more you're going to put on the value of that piece, those goods, the higher people are going to have to pay in shops.
Ready? The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States so it doesn't have to pay the tariff.
That will take many, as you know, that will take many years.
In fact, I'll tell you, there's another theory is that the tariff, you make it so high, so horrible, so obnoxious that they'll come right away.
Well, okay. So whether you agree with tariffs or not, I'm just going to say that guy, John Micklethwaite, you don't fight with him. Don't argue with him. You're not smarter than Donald Trump. He's a billionaire sitting next to you, you measly little Bloomberg reporter. Well, it doesn't matter if you agree with President Trump's ideas for reducing the deficit and also trying to get companies to move to America, make their products here. That's what he was trying to say. If you raise tariffs, companies will come here. I'll give you two examples. BMW, Volvo, I'll give you more. Every car maker, automaker, they all are overseas-based companies. They're all doing business here because if you put the tariff in, just build a freaking thing here. And what happens then? Then Americans get jobs. Idiot, Bloomberg. I happen not to agree with tariffs for other reasons, but that certainly is a reason to agree with a tariff. I'm just a non-competitive free marketeer who says drop all taxes and tariffs. It's a belief of mine, has nothing to do with this, but that guy got eaten up and spit out by Donald Trump. Let's ask ourselves, agree or disagree, whether Kamala Harris could even have that kind of conversation about economic policy? No. You and I know the answer to that. Of course not. Not in a million years. And I'm willing to bet a lot of money that she doesn't even know the basics, economy 101. She would fail. F. Unless, of course, she became the teacher's pet, a la Willie Brown. But I digress. Here, watch this.
The first is just for the record and for those people watching on television, the Economic Club of Chicago and Bloomberg both invited Vice President Harris to a similar interview about her economic plans that she has declined so far.
She didn't show up. She could, you know why? Because she can't have an intelligent conversation with someone from the Economic Club of Chicago and someone from Bloomberg, no matter how hard Bloomberg wants to push her agenda. But here it is. Remember, Omar, from The Wire, if you come at the king, you best not miss. Now watch King Trump destroy this unprepared, smug little money reporter and grind him like a bug into the pavement.
Massive.
I agree. It's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just tell you. I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to, spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative, and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong.
He went on to say, and you've been wrong for 25 years. And he said, by the way, Wall Street Journal, you're wrong too. That's a guy I want in the White House, leading the free world away from madness and away from every single country trying to take our power away, to take the power of our economy away, to undermine the U.S. dollar. And if we just shake up Trump and shake off the Trump derangement syndrome, some of these people would also have to admit that that guy is the guy that they should want representing us at all the adult tables around the world.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You've
been wrong.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people. There are business
you're wrong.
people.
You've been wrong all your life on this stuff.
Best not miss, my friend. Wrong for a very long time, Bloomberg. In fact, and billionaire Howard Lutnick doubled down on President Trump's tariff policy narrative on CNBC the same day. Now, Trump was supposed to appear, but he didn't. But Lutnick appeared in his stead.
Tariffs are an amazing tool by the president to use. They're an amazing tool, but he understands don't tariff stuff we don't make, right? If we don't make it, and you want to buy it, I don't want to put the price up there. It's pointless, but use tariffs to build in America. If we want to make it in America, tariff it, or if we're competing with it, tariff it. But you got to remember, we need to protect the American worker. Finally, someone's going to protect the American worker, and Donald Trump is here to protect the American worker.
So Lutnick, I know Lutnick for 30 years. He was the guy who, Cantor Fitzgerald, CEO, remember they were in the top of the World Trade Center, lost almost all his employees. He's now becoming part of the Trump transition team. So when Trump wins, we believe he will. When Trump wins, Lutnick will be the guy who will put people in the places, in the high priority seats. Little side story, in 2016 when Trump won, Steve Bannon called me and said, come over to Trump Tower very quickly, hurry up. Went over to Trump Tower. I may have told you this. Went to Trump Tower like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was doing the 5. I had literally a hot minute to get there. And they wanted to put me in as Commerce Secretary. And Bannon said, we want you for Commerce Secretary. I said, Steve, I love being on the 5. I like doing TV. And he said, hold on. And Reince Priebus came in and we'd like you for Commerce Secretary. I said, Reince, thank you, appreciate it, but I'm going to have to respectfully decline. And they end up putting in, oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who runs the coal companies. Anyway, so I didn't do that. But Howard Lutnick will be in charge of it. In other words, Trump is putting some really smart people in place to put in the right administration when he wins again. But let's just go back to that interview on stage in Chicago. There's another moment that can be thrown in the faces of the leftist machine trying to yell racism and trying to call Trump racist and MAGA is not wanting immigrants here at all, when nothing could be further from the truth. We know, and I've said this many, many times before, that this country has and always will thrive on immigration, but legal immigration. It's crazy that we don't want violent gangs, right? We don't want them. We don't want rapists. We don't want murderers, child and sex traffickers, fentanyl traffickers, or the dregs of every other country's societies coming here, murdering, raping, and assaulting American citizens with no interest, by the way, whatsoever in assimilating and contributing to this country. They don't even try to learn the language. They just want to come over and get free stuff. And President Trump got the chance to point that out, much to the left's dismay, I'm sure.
You look at the full effect of taking a lot of people out of the workforce, removing a lot of people. The Congressional Budget Office is banking on the fact that there'll be $9 trillion added to the GDP of America over the next 10 years by immigrants. You want to stop that process. For all the people who run businesses in the audience, I'm just focusing on the economic thing. Are you prepared to say, look, it's fine to have a slightly smaller economy in exchange for having the immigration controls you want?
Simple answer. I want a lot of people to come into our country, but I want them to come in legally. I don't want to have...
Hear that? The applause, because, the left tries to do this all the time. Trump never said he didn't want immigrants. In fact, he was the one who says, I want a great big wall with a great big gate, which means stop the illegals, let them come in, but let them come in legally. I mean, it's just the only way to do it, folks. But that applause, by the way, that is why they don't want audiences at Trump's debates, because they know America would see just how much support Trump has for those policies and principles, and it scares the living daylights out of them. Nothing scares them more, in fact. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, yet again, laying out her economic plan. And what did she do? She uses race with a little mix of the same old BS lines.
In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother, worked hard, raised me and my sister, and by the time I was in high school, she was able to afford our first home. I know what it means for an individual and a family to have home ownership. I also know, in the context of history, nobody got 40 acres and a mule.
She told you she's middle class every freaking time she's asked a question about the economy or how you're going to fix inflation. I grew up in the middle. We got it. 40 acres and a mule. Here we go. You guessed it. Whenever it's desperation time for a Democrat, roll out those reparations, right?
I'm running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class.
How are you going to fix the economy? Well, I grew up in the middle class. What do you got? What's your idea for inflation? I grew up in the middle. Do you have anything in there? Do you have anything in there, Kamala? Anything in there of substance that'll actually have a policy behind it that may or may not work, but at least you'll have something, an idea? I mean, if we don't like it, we'd like to hear that you have something. I mean, you got a team of people writing this shit for you. Come up with something other than I come from the middle class. Okay, we got it. Did you? I don't know. Some say you were wealthy. Who knows? Canadian for sure. I don't know. I'm not sure if you knew this, but Kamala Harris grew up in the middle class, folks. I'll say it again. But this whole, I'm running to be the president of all Americans, but I'm only going to do special things, certain special things for this group that I'm kind of losing over here. African-American men, well, in order to get some votes. Well, that's pandering in its ugliest form. The truth is that reparations need to be researched, is what she said. That line means only that Kamala is talking about it just to get herself some votes. Kamala says reparations, comes out of her mouth, and everyone goes, oh, she must be for it. And of course, right on cue, the middle class line, that's because there's nothing else Kamala Harris has up here. She's a robot delivering the same old memorized buzzwords and lines and no substance whatsoever. Kamala Harris is an AI creature developed and delivered by the Democrat machine. There are leaks and reports out now that Nancy Pelosi and other high-ranking deep state swampy Democrats are questioning not only whether Kamala Harris will lose, which I think we can all agree is very, very likely, but now they're beginning to panic that this will drag down Democrats down ballot, losing more seats in the House and losing control of the Senate. They're actually saying that it may be a Republican House, Senate, and potentially White House, trifecta. Kamala Harris has become ballot box poison, and in just under 3 weeks, we'll find out just how poisonous she really is. All right, so we talked a little bit about this big sit-down with Charlemagne the God. I would like to get him on this show. I would just love to have a conversation with him. I think he's actually fair. I mean, I didn't like the question about reparations. I think that's ridiculous and unfair. But other than that, I think he tends to be fair. He gave Biden a bunch of a hard time. A little bit of an easy softball to Kamala Harris. But let's see what she had to say about illegal. Remember, the borders are illegals.
Could you please respond to Trump's claim that he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to round up immigrants if he wins the election? This law was last used to put Asian Americans in internment camps during World War II, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Trump wins, he's going to use this law to put anyone that doesn't look white in camps, and I'm scared.
Yeah, so you've hit on a really important point and expressed it, I think, so well, which is he is achieving his intended effect to make you scared. He is running full time on a campaign that is about instilling fear.
Yeah, so again, they use these fear tactics. Yes, he's going to round up people and put them in internment camps in 2025. Are you out of your freaking mind, you idiots? You nut jobs. I mean, who's not going to vote for a guy because they believe what you just said? Probably no one. All right, I don't want to talk about this Trump sentence thing. Let's move up to the next one. NYPD, remember we've been talking about this Tren de Aragua, the violent Venezuela gang that Martha Raddatz over at ABC asked J.D. Vance about, and she said, well, it's only a handful of apartments that this illegal, violent gang is overtaking in America's cities. Oh, just a handful. How many is enough, by the way, Martha? She'll never live that one down. But let's hear what she had to say. Let's hear what the New York PD had to say about Tren de Aragua in New York City, by the way.
What started out as a robbery crew, upwards of 50 robberies, 20 individuals arrested for upwards of 50 robberies and out of those 20 individuals, every single one of them is on the streets today. So
that's crazy. Now, there are reports that they're operating the Roosevelt Hotel, which used to be a very nice hotel in New York City. Now it's a migrant shelter. What are we talking about? What's going on inside this hotel that is now spilling out into the Times Square area?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a recruitment process. And
crime. By the way, that Roosevelt Hotel, she's right. That the Roosevelt Hotel used to be back in the day. It was a luxury hotel. They're using it as a migrant hotel now, and there's a gym, there's a workout area, a fitness center. They've got a media place where a bunch of computers. And they're there for free. They're there for free. It used to be a few $100s a night to stay in that hotel. And these illegal migrants are there hanging out for free, committing crimes, and in the violent ones. The Tren de Aragua are committing violent crimes in the street in New York and in Aurora, Colorado, taking over apartment complexes. And the left just goes, okay, whatever. You know why? Because they're going to vote one day. They're going to get the vote one day. They're going to get these people a path to citizenship, no matter how evil and horrific they are in the meantime. And they're going to get the vote. And who are they going to vote for? Are they going to vote for Trump, who says deport them? Or are they going to vote for the group that says, here, stay for free in these luxury hotels? Here's a credit card for you. You want a job? Don't worry. You want to send your kids to school? Free. Don't worry. Meanwhile, veterans, homeless veterans, are committing suicide at an alarming rate because they don't have money to live. What's wrong with this place? Wake the hell up. The Roosevelt Hotel, luxury. Let's move up to the next one. I don't want to talk about Liz Cheney. She'll make my head explode right now. All right, this one, I love this one. Mark Cuban, who, I don't know, used to be, Mark Cuban made money on Wall Street, sold his company on Wall Street, bought the Dallas Mavericks, blew up, sold a part of the Mavericks, maybe all of the Mavericks, just has a shit ton of money because he was in the right place at the right time. Actually, I give him credit for selling the Wall Street business. He loved basketball, buys a basketball team, makes even more. He's a wealthy billionaire, but he's lost his way over the last few years. I mean, he forgot where he made his money. He thought, if you apply some of these financial and economic policies to what he did back in the 90s, he never had the money he has right now, but he forgets he's become a liberal. He's become a bleeding heart liberal, limousine liberal. And he sat down with Rachel Maddow and they had this discussion.
In terms of the targeting that he is talking about for a second term and what we saw in his first term when he picked out individual businesses or sometimes individual business leaders who he wanted to use the government to punish, when he went after Amazon and Jeff Bezos, when he went after saying he wanted to go after Mark Zuckerberg, when he did other things that were targeting businesses because of what were perceived to be his political interests, I would have thought that that would have made him radioactive in the business world because business people are too smart to think that they can always be on the right side of those calculations, right? That they won't ever be the one who's in the crosshairs once you've got somebody who uses the government that way to reward and punish his enemies and his friends.
Well, you don't hear a whole lot of CEOs other than Elon Musk, particularly of large companies, coming out and supporting him for that very reason.
Couple thoughts on that. Maybe you can put that up again, control room. You don't have to do the sound, but just if you can show me the picture or a video of that. So Rachel Maddow, which one's Rachel Maddow? Which one's Mark Cuban? I'm just kidding. I mean, he's looking a little, I don't know. And that question lasted like a minute and a half, and his answer was like 10 seconds. I mean, Cuban's supposed to be the business expert here. I don't know, folks. It's getting crazy out there. I just wanted to bring you into the loop on the news of the day, so to speak. All right, Bolling Truth Bomb, always uncensored, kind of edited, but always uncensored. This is, they're preparing you. They're letting you know in advance. If you don't remember 2020 and you don't remember that at 10 o'clock at night, it looked like Trump had the victory. It was his election. And then sometime at 3 or 4 in the morning, everything kind of changed. Well, guess what? They're preparing you that this might happen again. Listen.
We might think we knew the results of elections a lot sooner in previous elections. We really didn't. It was just the margins were so large that we were able to call the elections earlier. It always takes a long time to count ballots. We're going to see that again, and margins are likely to be tight, so we might need to wait a few days in states like Georgia and elsewhere.
And David, I really don't think we can emphasize enough the way in which each state has different rules for counting, and the result can be somewhat suspicious looking on the surface processes with the count, right? It's not just one. If you got a jar of jelly beans, it's not like one red, one blue, one red, one blue. Sometimes handfuls of results come in at one time, a handful of other results at another time. Could you just talk generally about how we should see the count unfold at that state level?
Right. So we have to remember, and you mentioned this earlier, we run the most complicated elections in the world.
I'll tell you what, how about this? How about bullshit? How about you walk in and you vote? How about you walk in with an ID and you vote? This whole idea in 2020, when mostly because of COVID, that everyone can vote early, mail in ballots early, this really changed the face of elections in America. I mean, who's sending them in? In Virginia, the state has to is being sued by the Biden administration because the state of Virginia wants to pull illegals off the voting rolls. I mean, you can imagine this. They're being sued by our own government to push to allow illegals who aren't supposed to even be here, certainly not supposed to be allowed to vote. They want to allow them to vote. So this whole election stuff, and we're going to get deeper and deeper into it as we get closer, but this stuff is starting to bubble up like it's getting really weird again. And then I watched this, and I want you to see this because there's the reason why on the backside of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that Donald Trump says he doesn't drink, but this feels like drunken behavior. I think he's probably microdosing like his friend Elon Musk.
Okay. Those morons on MSNBC to say that Trump is drunk or are you out of your mind? The guy, I've known him for 35 years. I've never seen him once take a sip of alcohol. Maybe once in the old Celebrity Apprentice finale when Ivanka had sold her jewelry collection for $80,000 that went to charity. He may have sipped a Trump champagne, maybe, or Trump wine, maybe. I doubt it, though. I don't know. I will tell you, throw the picture up there very quick. I know Trump very, very well. That picture is in the Oval Office in 2017. Right after that, he's calling Rupert Murdoch on the phone. Mitch McConnell calls in. He kept me there. My point is, I know him very well. We went from that room, that's the Oval Office. There's a little hallway attached to the Oval Office, and it goes to what's called the reading room. It's a very quiet little room. Presidents used to read or whatever. Some of them have meetings in there. Trump happened to have lunch in there. He said, it's a true story. He's sitting there talking to me, and I think we were talking about the infrastructure bill that he wanted to do. Remember, this was early in 17, so it was one of the first things he wanted to do. We're talking about his infrastructure bill, and he's eating a bowl this big, of French fries. And he's eating one at a time. He takes the bite, and he puts the part he touches, puts it in another bowl, bites him. So he had a bowl of French fries, and he had a bowl of ketchup, and 2 or 3 Diet Cokes. The guy just drinks Diet Cokes. That's all he drinks. He doesn't drink alcohol. He's not microdosing anything, you morons. Idiots. Truth bomb. All right, now here's a follow-up to a story I think is it touches my heart. It touches my life, my body, my heart. Remember we told you some asshole chained a dog during the hurricane in Florida, and DeSantis said, if we find that jerk that chained a dog to a post while the hurricane was coming in, thankfully, state troopers, Florida Highway Patrol, FHP, found the dog, saved him, and DeSantis said, if we find that person, we're going to throw the book at him. Listen.
We had somebody decide as Hurricane Milton approached that it would somehow be a good thing to take his dog and chain it to a post on the interstate. Well, we had a Florida Highway Patrol with us here today that saw that dog in distress. Dog was very rattled from that experience, rescued the dog. The dog's now in Tallahassee. It will be adopted, renamed Trooper. But we said at the time, you don't just tie up a dog and have them out there for a storm. Totally unacceptable. And we're going to hold you accountable. Well, I'm proud to announce that the authorities have identified the dog's former owners, and State Attorney Susie Lopez is now pursuing animal cruelty charges against the individual. So we said you'd be held accountable, and you will be held accountable.
That is absolutely awesome. Throw the book at those SOBs who chain a poor, defenseless dog to a post with a fucking hurricane. With a hurricane coming in. Sorry about the F-bomb. And by the way, I'm going to see DeSantis next week. A week from tomorrow, Friday, I'll be up in Tallahassee hanging out at the governor's mansion, talking to him a little bit about what the plans are. So we'll bring you some of that as well. Do we have a voicemail? Control, do we have one voicemail we can play? Let's take a listen to one of the voicemails.
Eric, I need to find out how to get in touch with you so that I can actually hear your podcast or hear you on radio, because I can't find you anywhere on TV, and that is disturbing to me like all crazy. I don't know why the hell they got rid of you on Newsmax, but that was the dumbest damn move they ever made. So do me a favor, please give me a call back. Thanks.
Well, a couple things there you can find. But first of all, just subscribe, and you can always it'll get sent right to you. And call, by the way, 888-601-0032. Toll-free number, 888-601-0032. You find me everywhere. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on all the podcasts, including Apple and Spotify. But call and leave me a message, 888-601-0032. They didn't get rid of me at Newsmax. They offered me a contract. And I walked away from the contract. You know why? Because I was not allowed to say what I want to say. I wasn't allowed to say I'm against funding for Ukraine. I wasn't allowed to. In fact, there's a good story. Look it up. Senator Mike Lee came on my show specifically to talk about stopping Israel funding for Ukraine. He said, I want to do that. This is a bill I want to push to stop our spending U.S. tax dollars. And what they did was they cut the whole segment. It was a 9-minute segment. They cut 7 minutes of Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee's commentary, because they didn't agree with it at Newsmax. And I said, you know what? If you're going to do that going forward, I'm leaving. They offered me a contract. I said, I'm leaving. And I said, if I can executive produce the show, or I can say what I want, I'm anti-vax mandates. I'm against mandating vaccines. They're not. They're for vaccine mandates. They're for funding all these foreign wars. They didn't let me do that. I said, if I can do the show I want to do, I'll stay. And they said, sorry, this is a hard and fast rule we have. And I said, goodbye. I'm going to walk. And I did. And here we are. That's how we got here. Love being here. Love that you're calling in and asking about it. Just subscribe everywhere. And that number, one more time, 888-601-0032. We'll put you up on the show. Bolling out for Wednesday. See you tomorrow.